guys, Brian here. Welcome to vlog number 27. I decided to go do something different for this vlog. I'm gonna try to do it all in one take, and just edit the video as much as I can and add a couple sequences here and there, but not anything too crazy. And it's more gonna be just me kind of giving you guys a list of things that I feel like you guys can do to your guys' cars without voiding the warranty, because we know we all love how Toyota is treating everybody with these warranty claims, and it's definitely tough. And hold on, let me give these pups their puppuccino because they could smell it and they're starting to cry about it. Mac, you want some? He's just dropping all over the place. All right, let me leave that back there for them. But anyways, you gotta love letting your dogs in your car, because they're kind of like kids in a way where they'll just make a big old mess and you just have to clean after them, and you can't even get really mad at them because they're just dogs. And you gotta live with them. Can't live without them. If you're not a dog person, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I love dogs, and I'm allergic to cats. I would probably like cats too if I wasn't allergic to them. But anyways, so let me just take a sip of this. But I remember seeing these when I got into my WRX or my STI, and I thought that they were very useful, because the last thing I wanted to do when I had that car was void the warranty, at least not for the first year, because I didn't mod the car for a year. At least I didn't do any mods that would ruin warranty in the first year. So this is going to be a top 10 mods to do that won't void your warranty, and this is for most platforms. Kind of have the same type of mods, but every platform is a little bit different, and I'm going to do some GR specific mods, but also most of these mods are very general. So if you have a new car, whether it's a STI, Golf R, Civic Si, Type R, 5.0 Mustang, you know, whichever car and that has warranty that's new and you don't want to void it, this is kind of like a good 10 things to kind of put on your list of mods that you can do, that you could definitely get away with not, you know, affecting your warranty, because you don't necessarily need to get a tune. And that's what I'm saying, like, as long as you're not getting a tune, as long as you're not tapping into the engine, you know, some of these are going to have some heavy asterisks, and I'm not going to cover basic stuff like window tint and like aesthetic things like lips and stuff, because obviously everyone knows you can do that without voiding a warranty. This is going to be more of like a performance based video, or performance mods that you can do that are going to benefit the car and also not void warranty. And there's a few things, you know, that you could definitely do, and a couple things that you should look out for. So let's go ahead and get into it. So for number 1, and I'm gonna go from like most boring to most fun, and the number 1 or number 10, so we're gonna go start from the top, go down to the bottom, to the most fun. So number 10 is going to be and I think this is going to be more GR specific, but I know every platform could benefit from these. It's going to be your extended wheel studs. It's literally one of the biggest flaws when it comes to the wheels and tires. And if you want to run aftermarket wheels in general, you're going to have to run extended wheel studs. Personally, I don't yet. I do have upgraded wheel lugs, but I do need to definitely run wheel studs at some point. I'm gonna order them. You know, it's just one of those things where I'm kind of pushing it to the side, but it's definitely needed, especially if you drive the car hard. I haven't been really doing much track days. I've done one, but it is definitely a big flaw of GR Corollas, and that's one thing you can do that will give you some added performance, at least added safety, that won't void your warranty. And then number 9, I'm gonna say is gonna be your radiator. So honestly, from driving the Corolla, the GR Corolla, especially even in track, it doesn't really suffer too much from engine overheating, or at least coolant overheating, from what I can tell. Maybe an oil cooler can definitely do you well in that way, but a radiator would be a definitely good mod to do, especially if you plan on modding the car down the line, and especially if you plan on adding a, sorry, look at Mac, this guy is crazy. Yeah, after this I'm gonna take him on a WALK around the park, so they're gonna have a good time. But anyways, so yeah, radiator, it's a good way to, you know, add some well needed cooling. And radiators, aftermarket radiators in general, are really good, especially even if you're just canyon driving. It's good to have, just because Usually they run even cooler than OEM. So a cooler engine means healthier, performance, and it's going to keep your engine alive longer. So that'll be number 9 is going to be a radiator. Some good brands going to be like Koirad or Koyorad or whatever, and then and Mishimoto. I run Mishimoto on my STI, and that was definitely my first mod on my STI was the radiator, just because as soon as I broke in the car, I did a canyon run in the summertime, and I quickly was starting to overheat the radiator fluid or the coolant within maybe, I want to say, 10 minutes of the canyon drive. And so I knew right away that the STI was going to need a radiator, and fast. And so that is a very important mod and very needed mod, so don't neglect your coolant. And so leading off of that, number 8 would be an oil cooler. An oil cooler is definitely going to benefit the GR Corolla, because it does, from what I've noticed and monitoring the oil temps, is that the oil will overheat before the coolant does. And so it is definitely more important to do an oil cooler than the radiator, but both kind of go hand in hand if you can do both at the same time. Usually, Mishimoto can offer some deals or some discount if you're going to buy both. So don't forget to do your oil coolers, and that'll be number 8 on my list. Number 7 is going to be actually, hold on, I have a list, so I'm not just forgetting things. All right, so number 7 I would say is going to be the pitch mount. So I have a Racer X pitch mount on my car, and it's a mod that I did also very early on my STI journey, and it's important to do on old cars, even, or at least stick shift cars, because when you're shifting gears, you're gonna bang through it, and you're gonna add a lot of stress to that pitch mount, and so it's good to just reinforce that. I did it on my STI. It made a big difference. On my Ford Fiesta ST was like the biggest difference. And on this car as well, it's definitely it was definitely needed. My pitch mount, when I removed it, was not torn, but there's been many instances where people remove their pitch mounts and already have tears, and that's something that you can do that won't void more warranty. And all of these mods that you're doing, especially the radiator, just use OEM fluid, and you shouldn't have any problems claiming warranty if anything bad happens. But I do recommend, if you are going to claim anything engine related warranty wise, just remove them from the car before you take it in, because it's one of those things, since you're not really getting tuned, there's no way that they would ever know that you ran an aftermarket anything, and that's kind of the important part of, like, if you're gonna do these things and you're gonna claim warranty or use a warranty, make sure that you actually take them off before you take them into the dealership. All right, on to number 6. So number 6, I'm gonna kind of put these two together because they kind of go hand in hand. But if you can only do one, you should probably start with tires, and some good aftermarket tires. I know that the Michelin Cup 2s are really good, and that's what kind of comes with the Marizzo package. But you don't have to go nothing that crazy. Some Falcon, I think it's like the RK615. Something like that. Some 200, just some 200 tread wear tires is going to be really good, and it's going to give you a lot of performance gain if you can't afford to do wheels as well. But wheels, lighter weight wheels and tires kind of come as a package, whether you're running actual wheels, which is like your Advans, your Rays, your NKs, your BBS, or you're running aftermarket or third party, which is going to be like your ESRs and things like that. Definitely, running some wheels. I recommend, track wheels or higher quality wheels. Lighter wheels is going to add performance as well as style. Mostly, most of these third party wheel companies are just copying styles of actual wheels, or like the authentic brand wheels. So with like less performance is because they're a lot heavier. And so, if you can invest extra money, do so. My biggest tool is going to be OfferUp. Always, look on OfferUp first. I bought most of everything on OfferUp, especially when it comes to wheels. And if you're looking for the best spec for your GR Corolla, it's going to be 9.5 or 18 by 9.5 plus 22 all around. You don't even have to remove the rear spacer. Has a really good fitment, and it's like pretty much like flushed with maybe slight it might be slightly in, might have slight poke, depends. But it's basically right there. So if you can, or if you are willing, that's definitely a mod that will make the world of difference, especially on the tires. But wheels will also add some performance. Going down the list to number 5 now. So number 5 I recommend would be brake pads. Some high quality brake pads, whether you run ceramic so you don't have as much brake dust, or if you run actual performance track pads. Those especially when I bought the car, my first impressions of the car was that it had very, very solid brakes. And so running, aftermarket brake pads would be a very good mod in order to even take that to the next level. And it will give you probably better track wear if you're going to drive the car in the track or do any aggressive driving. And then going down the list to number 4, I would say is going to be coilovers. Coilovers or springs, they kind of go hand in hand. I'm running springs personally. I like the way that the OEM suspension feels, and with my springs, I'm running the Ebok track spec springs, and it only gives the car a 1-inch drop, not a 2-inch drop. And I chose that just because I didn't want to suffer from rubbing, because I knew I was going to run aftermarket wheels. But the problem with springs is that you don't have that height adjustment or any camber adjustment or any type of adjustment really, and so it's just going to give you the drop and added kind of, I guess, stiffness or rigidity when it comes to the actual spring rate. And so I really like the Ebok track springs. I highly recommend them. And if you don't want to spend on like good coils yet, just go with springs. Honestly, I did that with my STI. I ran springs for maybe the first 3 years until I bought coils, and I couldn't complain. And it kind of just gives you more time to just enjoy the car as it is without having to buy coils. I didn't buy coils on my STI until my stock suspension, or at least the dampening, kind of gave out with the springs. And that's going to be the issue with the springs, especially if you run them long term, is that it's going to damage the stock suspension. But it's kind of more of a band-aid to just fill the hole for running coils in the future. So definitely springs and coils is another one that won't void your warranty, and those are kind of obvious things. They're not going to touch your engine components or anything, but you never know, because Toyota has some weird stories, avoiding warranties from tires. I don't know what that's about, but either way, another thing that won't void your warranty, but definitely remove it before you go in. I have a buddy that took his car in that had his engine that blown. He was going to claim warranty. Everything was kind of falling suit. They were doing their investigation, and for whatever reason, they did not like that he had a catback exhaust. And so they called and called and called. Supposedly, they called the exhaust shop that installed his catback for him, and the exhaust shop claimed that they tuned his car, which is a load of BS in my opinion. I don't think the dealership even called. I don't think that the shop would even disclose of that if they did do that, and he didn't even get tuned from that shop. So the story is very hazy, and I have my own gripes with the dealerships, Toyota dealerships, and to be specific, it's gonna be Toyota dealerships that are a little bit weird, and I'll make a whole separate video of my experience on doing some of my services with Toyota dealerships, because I've had a couple nightmares now, and it really pissed me off the way that the dealership kind of went about certain things, and even just the knowledge that some of the techs have. I feel like a lot of those technicians are not used to working on GR Corollas, and so they don't have a lot of experience when it comes to servicing things. So there's just some things that you should definitely look out for, and don't trust your dealerships, and don't take your car to dealerships if you know you're going to mod it heavily. And if you are going to mod it super heavily, then don't expect warranty to cover everything. But these are just mods that you can definitely do, or at least are nice starting points to get you started on that path. And then once you're ready to kind of jump into the dark side, as they say, when you're ready to void that warranty and actually tune and do like power mods, then you can have a good foundation for that, especially with these mods. But the catback is definitely a good one. Whatever you run, I run AWE right now. I'm gonna probably run HKS in the future. If Cobb ever makes something for this platform, I might run a Cobb, something along those lines. Anything Honestly, you just get some more sound out of the car, and it's fun to just run a catback exhaust. And so that would be my number 3. My number 2 on the list, and I feel like this is a must-have. And all of the 3 to 1, they're all must-haves at this point. You know, I think everyone should run a catback. Whether it's quiet or loud, they have so much different ones, but I mean, it's just one of those mods that bring a smile to most people's faces, because it's just you're able to hear the engine, you're able to hear the noise that it's making. But a short shifter for my number 2. I'm gonna put you guys on some game right now, because the short shifting setup I have on my car right now is using 2 different companies. So on the front end, underneath the airbox, I am running the Racer X short shifting kit. I believe it's like a stage 2 kit. It's basically their bushings and the Racer X short shifting component itself, and it goes in the front of it goes in the engine area right under the airbox. And all it does is it really just shortens your shifting maybe like 20 or 30%. And I ran that for maybe 3 months, just that alone, and it cleaned up the OEM shifting so much. It made the gears feel like you could feel what gear you're getting into. Like it helped it get a little bit more notchy and a little bit shorter, and so you actually knew what the car was doing. Before, I felt like the shifting was nice, but it was definitely a little loose and a little flimsy in the way where like it just felt like you couldn't really tell what gear you're in certain positions, especially while you're driving in the canyons or in aggressive driving. It was definitely a little tough in that way. Sorry, I gotta check on my dogs. But let me go ahead and show you guys the next mod that I did after 3 months. Is I ended up running the Billetworks short shifter with the Racer X kit up front, and it just really shortens the drive, and it really improves the shifting characteristics of the car. And paired with their weighted teardrop shape shifter or shift knob, it really just falls into gear now, which is really nice, and it just feels so good. Like, by far has been I think I want to say my favorite mod that I put on the car. And I think that, I think that with anybody that drives manual, the shifting experience by far is going to be what you experience every single day. So if you enjoy shifting, you're going to enjoy driving the car. It's going to pay for itself just in pure joy in general. So if there's any mods that you do and you don't want to avoid warranty, or you just want to have a good starting point, do both. Do the Racer X, or you could start with the Racer X like I did and then run the Billetworks after, just because the Billetworks kit is not cheap. I will admit that it's pretty expensive. The Racer X kit is a little bit cheaper, and it's a good starting point, and it definitely cleans up the OEM shifting experience. But paired with the Billetworks shifting short shifter and the weighted shift knob, it just makes it perfect. Like, this is definitely by far the best shifting experience I've had in any car I've had. And I've driven a lot of cars. I've driven IS300, Supras, Evos, just WRXs, Fiesta STs, Honda SIs, Type Rs. This by far is everyone knows Honda shifters are really good. So I feel like this is definitely puts it at par with a Honda shifter, maybe a little bit better. I think I would have to kind of compare them side by side to really know. But so I definitely recommend that. And my number one thing that you can definitely do without voiding your warranty, and probably without getting a tune, and I'm gonna pair these together, and I'm gonna put an asterisk on one, just because there's a possibility that you might still void warranty with one of them. But the first one is going to be an intercooler, front mount intercooler, upgraded intercooler. And just based on overall appearance, if you have a front mount intercooler, you guys seen my STI, I cut the grill, I exposed that thing just because I just love the way that they look. So that's one that you don't necessarily need to run the tune for, just because it's already a front mount car, and so you're not going to really run a risk of any real engine issues if you run just a slightly bigger intercooler, or if you run like a really big one, maybe you might want to get tuned. But that's one I feel like if you're running like a decent, like just like a slight upgrade or just better components inside, just gives it cooler air but doesn't really change the volume of air that you're putting in, you could definitely get away with running that without a tune for a little bit. Especially with the Corolla platform, it's not as sensitive as the STI platform. STI, I would say, don't do anything without getting a tune at all. Even switching blow-off valves might be a little tricky without a tune. But with this platform, I've noticed people get away with a little bit more. I think it's just a little bit of a better engine in general, like a more reliable engine than an STI engine, but which is more fun. That's not this video to debate on. And then another one that goes hand in hand, I wouldn't say run both at the same time, but definitely run one at a time if you can, is going to be an intercooler. And this one I put an asterisk on just because I've seen that the inventory intercooler or intake, cold air intake, tends to throw out a intake check engine or an intake light or an intake message. And so if that might give it away if you guys are running an intercooler, so I would say do your research and make sure that the intercooler that you're running won't give you a message, just because that might give out a sounding bell, you know, to the dealerships if they see that type of message on the car and they realize that you were not, you know, running a stock intercooler when your engine blew or whatever happens. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but I'm just saying if you want to, you know, safely run these things without running into crazy issues or running into a lot of problems at the dealership, you know, these are things that you need to think about. You know, everybody wants to play the game, and I tell you, you know, sometimes you're better off just fixing things on your own than trying to deal with the dealership. But obviously, if you have a perfectly stock car, they really can't complain, you know, and they're gonna do whatever investigation they say they're gonna do, and they're gonna try to find a reason to get out of it, you know. And if it's really an unfair situation and you feel like you're being cheated out of a situation because they are really aggressive on selling you all of these warranties and all of these different services, you know, and they don't even have the training or they don't have the experience to even do these services or honor these warranties, you know, that's when you, if you really like feel like you need to go down that way, that's when you have to, sometimes you have to lawyer up or do things in that nature, and it's not fun. But these mods are completely safe, and if anything, they add more reliability. For the most part, especially the intercooler is just going to add colder air, you know, like it shouldn't, these mods shouldn't affect the engine in any way or the tunes in any way. And these are just mods that I feel like you could definitely get away with without, you know, having to worry about touching the ECU, tuning the ECU, changing things, and kind of really telling on yourself when it comes to the warranty. And then once you're ready to cross that line, get to the dark side, you know, my SCI, the engine blew, but I'm gonna rebuild it. It's fine. I mean, I knew I was gonna do that after a year of owning the car. And the GR Corolla, I mean, it's my daily, so I'm not trying to do anything that's gonna hurt its reliability. But once you get down that tree and you just really start to push the limits of the car and really start to tune it, then you can kind of just see what the limits of the platform are, what the limits of yourself are, and it just opens a whole other door. And for anyone that's just getting into the platform, I hope you guys are enjoying it. I hope this gives you kind of a nice start point, and I hope it gives you more confidence that, you know, there's mods out there that you can do that you don't necessarily have to void that warranty. And so I hope you guys enjoy. This is a little bit different, a little bit more tame, a little bit, you know, just me and my car, a little bit more intimate, I guess, and the puppies. And so I hope you guys enjoy. If you guys can and you guys made it this far, you guys should definitely like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.